Hey, so we have Joris here. He is here to help me determine where the Church of Christ sits, on the bite extremism scale. Because he was Church of Christ at one point. So, all right, well, let's get into it. So the
All
first
right.
one is, do they promote dependence and obedience? Now, for this one, I would say the most extreme version would probably be Jonestown, where they all live on a compound. They're all ordered to. They have basically zero freedom. So where would you put the Church of Christ on this one, do you think?
Hmm. What, as a baseline, what did Jonestown rank
I think they
on this
ranked
scale?
21 on this. That is basically the most extreme you can get because
Okay.
yeah, because they were like they were super communist. They were almost like a mix of a communist slash Christian cult, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, they controlled everything, every part of their lives. So they were a 21 on that.
Mm. This one's uh this one's kind of difficult. So
I
I'm
figure just
wavering
like
between two.
knowing the little bit that I know about them. Well, I guess I'm not completely in the dark here. I
Yeah,
do know a
yeah.
bit about them, so I would personally probably put them at hmm,
They say I don't want to talk about my number until you vote.
yeah. All right, hang on. Let me vote. Okay. Oh, three. Okay, so tell me about it.
Okay. Well, actually, since you went so high as an 8, I was curious about the first one. I would actually want to bump mine up to a 5.
Okay, I can come down
Um,
to a five. Are you kidding me? I can't change it once it's been. Okay, hang on.
Superior software.
I know. No, I did it earlier. But anyway, go on. Keep. So what were you saying? Why did you pick three?
Um, well, actually, I think I want to bump mine up to a 5, but my main thing about dependence and obedience is really towards the elders of the congregation. And of course, everything I talk about is going to be in the lens of the uh, 3 or 4 Church of Christ that in my area that I saw that I was involved in.
Right.
Um,
There you go. You can bump yours up, by the way. Now I changed it.
no, I can't. Vote cannot be changed.
Try refreshing. That may do it.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, they really, there we go. Let me do it.
Okay.
But they really put a big hinge on you are to be obedient to the church and the elders' decisions.
Right.
Um,
And it's like more on an individualized basis, right? So it's like individual churches, not so
oh yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
a higher.
Well, the structure of Church of Christ and even referring it to the structure of Church of Christ infers denomination, but they don't believe in denominations.
Right.
But you, generally, you are to be obedient and subservient to the elders of the congregation, which are this appointed body, ironically enough, appointed by fellow elders.
Right.
Not It's not a congregational decision.
Very
Uh,
interesting. So, quick question about them then. They don't have like
mhm.
any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have like a democratic system there, right? The elders determine
No.
everything. It's like not up to the
Yes.
congregation at all.
Yes. A very interesting example of that was I remember in my time in the church, which uh, was quite a while. I mean, I was in the Church of Christ from the time I was born until the time I was about 20.
Okay.
Um, but they went through a few different preachers, and I remember through one of them, they brought the entire congregation together and they said, here's our 3 choices. And it was essentially a public hearing, and people said what they wanted to, and at the end they said, well, the elders have already decided
Oh
this
wow.
person. So they were basically just getting together to tell the congregation, this is our decision.
Wow, that
If
is interesting. So it wasn't even like really a choice at all.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
basically your choice is to either like what they say or leave.
that's crazy, man.
So yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Modify behavior with rewards and punishments. I'm going to guess at this a little bit, educated guess, and
Mm-hmm.
say,
Hmm.
hmm.
Eh, I'll go here.
Okay, I'm gonna say, okay, good. We agree on that.
Yeah. So
The-
I can't remember any time growing up that, or just being in the church in general, there was really rewards in
Right,
general.
right.
Um, I mean, but there was definitely punishment and being like ostracized,
Sure, definitely.
stuff like that. I mean, I'd say it was like your typical church environment, like a Baptist or a Methodist, but maybe a little more extreme than that.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say for the audience, zero is like it. The question doesn't even apply to them. Like it's not even. I don't know. Like, do cookies shun family members? So obviously, that doesn't even apply to cookies. So it'd be zero. One is kind of a one, two, and three are kind of baseline. Like they all the churches do it, but it's a low level kind of thing. So I'm pretty comfortable with my three.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So the next one was dictate where and with whom you live, and I don't think they do that very much. So, but with
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't really do it with Jehovah's Witnesses, but they do dictate at the very least that you're not allowed to live with family members who are disfellowshipped, for example. So I gave them a little bit of a higher number. So considering that, I'm gonna give Church of Christ a slightly higher number than I otherwise would. Okay, interesting. Why'd you pick 8?
I picked 8. I might even be willing to come down to a 5. They're very, very adamant about you are not to live with anyone that you are not married with. That's
Okay,
the opposite sex.
that's fair enough.
Because I remember very specifically, this was after I had left, and I had moved in with my girlfriend. When word got back to the elders, my mother was given a little bit of crap within the congregation, and I was apparently spoken about very
Oh,
badly
I bet
within certain circles. So they are.
they're pretty serious about it. It's not just like a baseline thing with them. It's like they're kind of extreme about it. Then.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
because their whole thing is they claim that they follow every word of the Bible exactly,
Right.
and if you don't do every word of the Bible exactly, then well,
All right. Well, I'll
you're.
come up to a 5 in that case because that's fair
Hmm.
enough, and I'm sure they have rules about like non-believers and things like that. Do you
Hmm.
think? Do they have rules about non-believers living with them and stuff, or?
I remember very specifically hearing a sermon once that was about that you were really only to marry believers,
Okay.
and that you shouldn't marry non-believers.
Interesting.
Um, so I guess I would say there is a little bit of an implied
Right.
don't live with non-believers, but not an overt.
Outward,
Yeah.
obvious kind of thing, right? I'm with you.
Hmm.
Okay, so we got restrict or control sexuality. I'd actually put this pretty high, where 21 for me would be Heaven's Gate, where they castrated their members. They would come out and tell like any sexual feelings that they thought about or felt the night before at the breakfast
Hmm.
table to shame them. So I'd put them at a 21. Now on this scale, I think I'm gonna pick that. Okay,
Oh,
8. Interesting. Why'd you
yeah,
pick
yeah.
8?
I kind of agree with both of ours, but I mean, there's absolutely no wiggle room, no space, not even a iota of like wiggle
Sure.
for anyone that is not a heterosexual. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
there's nothing else, and obviously, no sex before marriage. Nothing.
Right.
Just you got to keep it vanilla until.
Until you
Uh,
seal the deal, or whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
but
That's fair enough. Yeah, I came down to an 8. That's reasonable. Okay, we've got control clothing and hairstyle. I don't actually know to what extent they do this, so I'm just gonna take an educated guess at this. Okay, all right, I'll move mine down in that case. They don't really control it that much, then I guess.
yeah, I can't ever remember there being really anything about this. I mean, people would show up to services on Sunday nights in t-shirts and shorts.
Okay.
So I mean, it wasn't too bad. I mean, as long as you're not wearing anything like
Provocative
overtly
or something.
provocative,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about like tattoos or long hair or piercings? Did they ever control any of that?
I remember people looking down on people with tattoos. I very specifically remember members saying to not get them, but
Right.
I believe there were people in the congregation that had tattoos. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so not terribly extreme about it then. That's
Yeah,
fair enough.
it's not something they would kick you out for.
Okay, we'll go with that one then. Regulate what and how much you eat and drink. Now, in this one, this context is kind of talking about like Heaven's Gate is another extreme example. Wow, do you hear the lightning outside?
Jeez, that was yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it's like right outside my door. But anyway, hopefully my power doesn't go out. That would suck. But
Hmm.
anyways, Heaven's Gate I'd put at a 21 because they would actually try to like regulate what you eat and drink in an attempt to make you more malleable and susceptible to suggestion, that kind of thing. So um, I don't know that they did this very much. Did they regulate anything? Like, were you allowed to eat meat and all that stuff? Or
I'll talk about it after you.
okay, all right.
I don't want to influence your decision.
All right, I'm gonna guess there. Okay. So why'd you pick three?
I picked three because of their very extreme hardline stance on alcohol.
Okay, that's fair enough. No alcohol at
Um,
all, or
None at all, like not even in communion.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I never really quite understood that because Jesus supposedly had wine at communion,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, you were not at all to have alcohol
Like
in any
not even a little
context.
bit. That's very crazy. So, by the way, how often do they do communion? Is it like once a month kind of thing, or?
It is dictated every single week, and they are very adamant that that is what the Bible says, and that specifically, I remember them saying Baptist churches that do it once a month are doing it wrong,
Wow.
and yes,
God.
and that you should do it every week. So yes, they do it every single week without fail.
These people. Okay. Do
And funny enough, if you are, I remember because I remember I had to help with it sometimes because I was a baptized male.
right.
Um, they would have regular communion in the mornings where they would pass the plates around and stuff, and in the evenings they would have after the preacher got done with his sermon, they would say for anybody that missed Sunday morning. You can take communion in the room behind me, and there was a little conference room where they would have all the bread and
Okay.
grape juice set up.
So with Jehovah's Witnesses, everybody would sit down and they'd pass the plate of unleavened bread and they'd pass the wine around to each person. They each had to have it passed to them.
Hmm.
And then the elders who were passing it down the rows, they would sit down and somebody else would pass it down the row of attendants.
Hmm.
So is that what you found with the Church of Christ too? Did everybody have to just have it passed to them and eat or whatever?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I, what they do is, I mean, the church I went to was, I mean, it had a couple hundred members, and they would have a team of people, and I somehow got roped into it almost every single Sunday, where you would be up in front of the church and you would have two plates, and there would be one person for each side of the rows of pews, and you would pass the plates to everyone. They would take the bread, eat it immediately, take the grape
Right.
juice, drink it immediately. But yeah,
Very
as long as you
interesting.
were baptized, you could take it.
Right. That is
And if
very
you weren't,
interesting. Did the females take it? They did, right?
yes,
Okay.
as long as you were baptized.
That is so fascinating, man. Just the whole culture of it is so weird, but
Man, and let me tell you what, I absolutely despised having to walk those plates around every week.
right? Really, you hated it.
Oh yes, it was awful. Ugh,
Huh.
because you didn't want to be the guy that dropped it.
Oh yeah, I can understand that. It's interesting you say that because in the Jehovah's Witness congregation, they kind of make it like a privilege to handle the microphones or set up the sound or carry the
Mm-hmm.
plates or whatever. It's like an honor that you're doing for Jesus kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would suck to
Um,
drop Jesus, though.
yeah, I mean, typically you don't want to drop the J-man on the floor.
Yeah, right? God, that's
Yeah.
crazy, man. Okay, deprive you of 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Again, this is kind of applying to like sleep deprivation, but Jehovah's Witnesses have like an extreme study schedule, so I would count that in with this, and I think I gave them
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around like an 8 or a 13. So with these guys,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
gonna say, um, I don't know. Oh, okay, 0. All right.
Yeah, I that's not something I ever noticed or
Okay.
really ever saw.
Did they not really like want you studying a whole bunch and stuff like that?
They did, but the only situation in which I could see this happening is whenever we would go to like youth conferences and
Mm,
stuff,
okay.
or like away events. They would always keep us up late doing different sermons, and
But that
then
was
we
just
would
to
have to
work for
wake
the
up.
church. It wasn't like a
Yeah, yeah,
tactic or something.
yeah. No, no, no.
Okay. All right. Go with that then. Okay. Exploit you financially. Hmm. I don't know. I'm gonna guess. Okay. So why'd you pick 8?
You are to tithe, and the thing about the way they do it, which is why I gave it so high of a number, is every week after the bread is passed and the grape juice is passed, another plate is passed for the offering,
Okay.
which again, they call it offering. You don't call it tithing, you call it offering.
Right.
They have their own language for
Of
all
course.
their
Yeah.
different
Loaded
all their different
language.
stuff. Yeah. And the nature in which it happens, everybody can see you doing it, right? Everybody sees the plates being passed around,
So
and
if
they
you
can
don't put
tell if you don't.
something in, then you're gonna be
Yeah.
ostracized.
And they're, even though they don't call it tithing, they're very adamant that you do give 10%.
That's interesting. Okay, I think 8 is a fair vote on that one. Okay, do they restrict leisure time and activities? Now, I've just from what I've heard from you, I'm gonna guess they don't do this very much. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely like there's weekly things on the weekend or weeknights, like programs at the church, either for different study sessions or something else that they really encourage you to go to. So I mean, I would say it's kind of restricted because I mean, when I get off work, I don't want to go to the church,
Sure,
right?
sure. I'm with you.
Um,
You know, come to think of it, actually, I should probably be announcing these these results because this is going on a podcast eventually, like
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
iTunes podcast. So, for the audience, I voted 1 and Joris voted 2, and I moved mine up to a 2. So, all right, that's fair enough. Yeah, we'll go with that one. Do they require you to seek permission for major decisions? Just from what I know of them, I'm gonna say this is gonna be pretty high.
Hmm.
Okay, I voted 8. You voted 5. Why'd you vote 5? You don't think they did this as much?
Um. Well, I mean, it was definitely things like marriage.
Sure.
Um, if you wanted to leave the church, you had to like get a letter.
Really?
Um, yeah, but I mean, it's not like they would hunt you down and drag you
Right.
back in. But I mean, it was just stuff like that. It was very pervasive in your day to day
Okay.
of
All right.
what the elders of the congregation might think of your decisions.
No, I moved mine down to 5, and so that makes this one a 5 total for that one. So deliberately withhold and distort information. Now, I think this one is mostly talking about like propaganda. Do they tell you not to go to websites that are critical of them? Do they tell you to get your information about them from their own sources, that kind of thing? Now, from what I know about them, I'm gonna say they do this, but I don't think it's as extreme as some others. Okay. What was your? So I voted 5. You voted 8. What was your reason for the 8?
So my reason for the eight is just little things throughout my life. Like for instance, one of the things that I always heard, I don't know why they loved it so much, but they would constantly say, the reason the Bible is true is because the Bible does not contradict itself.
Oh wow.
And if you asked a question, their answer would be to not look for contradictions because it's the word of God and God can't contradict himself.
Wow, man.
Little things like that. Another thing is they absolutely loved the Creation Museum, and the Creation Museum itself is a very distorted
Oh, it totally
place.
is. Yeah.
And it was stuff like that. There were tracts all over the church, and all manner of stuff like that. So I would definitely say they do distort information and saying like various things about science, saying, well, this part, like this is wrong, and here's the reason why.
Right. Certainly
And
they
just,
don't accept evolution, I imagine. Right?
oh, absolutely not.
Right.
No, not a
Okay.
little bit.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, I switched mine to 8, so that one gets an 8 overall. Forbid you from speaking with ex-members and critics. Now, as far as I know, I don't think they forbid it outright. It's like, say, if you do this, then there will be consequences. But I think that um, they do socially ostracize. So I'm gonna put this. Okay, interesting. What was your reason for
I don't know. Maybe I'll bump mine up to a 2, but
Okay.
you definitely are like ostracized a little bit. But even the reason I gave it so low is because actually the other week they had an event where you were supposed to invite people, and I did get a very nice letter in the mail from a lady that went there and trying to invite me, but I graciously declined.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so
but
she is a current member that
yeah, yeah.
you knew before, and she was trying to get you to come back, basically, right?
Oh yeah, and there have also been times where there's an elder I've seen out in the wild who had his family with him, and uh, his family didn't talk to me. He
Mm,
said hello, but that was about it.
mm.
So I definitely did feel ostracized in the moment, and I have gotten that from other sources as well.
Wow, that's messed up, man. All right, well, I
Oh,
brought mine
and
down to a 2 for that one.
an interesting thing about the critics, there was another. So in the area I live, it's very strange. They're ripe with churches of Christ. Specifically, where I live, I can think of 5 off the top of my head.
5 churches of
And
Christ, Jesus.
oh yeah, they're everywhere. But one of them is kind of the bad boy church because they use instruments and they're very against
Oh,
instruments. And you are not supposed to even think about that one.
that's
They bash
crazy.
that one
That's
all
like
the time.
that's
Yeah.
one of their flagship issues. That's been like an issue since like the 1800s or something.
Oh yeah, that's a very hot topic.
So let me ask you this: is the instrument ban like all encompassing, or is it just for worship? Like, can
It's
regular people use them?
all encompassing. Whenever we were
Oh
on
man.
like youth campouts and stuff, you could not have like a guitar around the campfire. If you were doing worship, you did it a cappella all the time, no exceptions.
Man, that sucks.
Oh, it's quite boring.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Okay. I'll move it down a little bit. All right. Okay, so the next one is discourage access to non-cult sources of information. I think that this kind of bleeds into the other one a little bit,
Hmm.
and so I'm actually going to give it fairly high. Okay, we agreed on that one. Good. That's good.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
for the audience, we both voted 8.
oh yeah, they definitely encourage you. Well, like for instance, the Creation Museum, they love the Creation Museum,
Mm.
and I mean they just really encourage you not to go looking for anything else.
Right.
They really
Suppress
encourage
doubt
you
and
to,
stuff.
yeah, they want you to stay in that box.
Right. Yeah. You find that with cults a lot. They want you to stay in the box because, and this is an interesting point that I brought up in my most recent video. With things like Islam in the Middle East, if there's dissenting opinion, they just throw you off a roof. It's part of the culture. but
Mm-hmm.
in some areas, like Saudi Arabia, for example. Not saying that is for all areas, but here in the U.S., you can just leave. You don't have to worry about being murdered or something. So cults have to find these tricky ways of keeping people trapped and sheltered, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
just one of those ways. So, okay, we've got divide information into insider versus outsider doctrine.
Shoot, this is a fun one. It's what this one is.
I'm gonna guess that that means pretty. Okay, we agreed on that one.
Oh,
Why'd you vote for it?
100. Because they not only do insider versus outsider versus the Christian and secular, they do insider and outsider within Church of Christ and literally every other church in existence.
Right.
Like there was so many times that I was told that we were the only ones doing it right, and every other church distorts the Bible in their own way to where they're not really following the Word of God.
See,
And well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Because I remember very specifically when I was like buying it 100%. I went to my grandmother's church whenever, because she lived several states away, once on vacation, and they had instruments, and I was genuinely offended that they
Wow.
had instruments
Really?
at
That's
the
so
time. Yeah,
crazy.
I was so mad the whole day. But yeah, because I mean, they just had that insider versus outsider mentality instilled into me. Like
It was like an offense against God that they had these
yeah.
instruments, I guess.
Hmm.
That is
And I
so
very
crazy.
and I remember just like things like people casually mocking Baptists and stuff like that, and it was crazy. Like I remember being a teenager at the time when I was very into the whole Christianity thing,
Right.
and thinking, if this is real, we shouldn't be worrying about denominations. Denominations are the worst thing that could happen to the church because we're splitting up
Yeah.
God's people. And I remember telling that to a member who was he was a deacon, and
You were a
him
teenager
telling
at
me,
this point, right? You said?
I was a teenager, and him telling me that denominations are wrong, and that if everyone was doing what we were doing, there wouldn't be denominations.
That is
But
so
he
crazy.
never really answered to me why we shouldn't reach out to them.
Right.
Because if they're doing it wrong, shouldn't we help them do it right?
So they didn't really reach out either.
No, oh no, absolutely not. You did every activity we did was with other Church of Christ. I mean, they
Sure.
have their own they have their own conference for youth in Tennessee, Challenge Youth Conference, and that was the only like youth getaway conference that we were allowed to go to. Whenever we would do things in the area, we would do it with the other Churches of Christ,
Right.
except for the one that uses instruments because they were going to hell anyway.
Wow.
Um,
That's so crazy. That whole mindset. And you know what I find interesting about that is Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing where they kind of crucify anybody who's on the outside, anybody who, Methodist, Baptist, anybody. And that led to me just kind of defaulting to atheist because all the other guys were wrong. When I realized Jehovah's Witnesses were wrong, that was it. It was just wrong,
mhm.
period. So, but you went through like a journey of going to a Baptist church afterward, right?
Oh yeah. That was interesting. At the time when I left the Church of Christ, I kind of half believed it, half didn't. I was really okay either way, but
Hmm.
ended up being influenced by a girl,
Right.
and
That'll happen.
dated her for a while, which the whole messy situation.
That
But
will
yeah.
happen. Those harlots will always get you in the end,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Okay. So we've got generate and use propaganda extensively. Now, I'd say that Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty extreme on this one because they started as a
Hmm.
printing company in the first place. So I'd probably peg them as a 21, maybe
Hmm.
even Jonestown as a 21 also. Um, you said they had tracts, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Okay, cool. We agree on that. We're both a
Yeah.
5.
I would have given them higher, but there's not like, as far as I knew, an official like printing organization.
Right.
I mean, there could be one that I didn't know about, but we definitely had tracts, and they were definitely used. I remember one that a Sunday school teacher did a lesson on, and looking back at it, it was the dumbest thing in the world. But the tract was which animals are going to be in heaven.
Oh wow, really?
And they used verses of the Bible to like justify like that there's gonna be certain animals in heaven. And
Like what? I wonder. Man, I want to find that tract.
I remember one of them specifically being a donkey, and I don't remember if it was in heaven or hell. But one of them I remember very specifically was there will be goats in hell.
Why? Oh,
And there will be goats in hell and sheep in heaven, because the sheep were on the right hand of God and the goats were on the left.
Okay.
And they took that literally to mean the actual animals in the tract.
That is awesome, man. I wonder where dogs fit. Obviously, snakes are going to hell. There's no question.
Yeah, dogs were in the tract, but I don't remember.
I've got to find that tract. I will look for that and maybe put it in my video.
I hope you find
awesome. Okay, so we've got use information gained in confession sessions against you. So with Jehovah's Witnesses, if they find out you did something wrong, they'll take you into a back room, they'll talk to you, they'll ask you to confess to it, and they'll say, if you repent, then Jehovah will forgive you, all that junk. And then they use the information that you give them to disfellowship or reprove or whatever. So I'd put them pretty high. As far as Church of Christ goes, I'm gonna guess that they're reasonably high too. Okay, so why I picked 5, you picked 2. Why'd you pick 2?
I think I'll meet. Well, how about we meet in the middle at 3?
Okay. You can do that.
They have a. Well, I mean, most congregations do this, but they do have an altar call every week, so that if you, I don't know, drank an alcohol during the week or something, you could tell the preacher about it.
Sure.
But
kind of like confession then, a little bit.
Yeah, and the elders are obviously informed as well, so there is a little bit of ostracizing there, but not any outright like blackmailing.
Sure.
Just kind of like that they know and that they are looking down on you is the worst part, you know?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Social ostracization is what that goes back to, so I understand what you're getting at there. Okay, that's fair enough. Although it says you're still at a 2.
Oh, I didn't. There we go.
Okay.
But it helps if you hit the buttons.
Right. Okay, we've got gaslight to make you doubt your own memory. Now, for the people listening who don't know what gaslighting is, I'll just give a basic explanation. It comes from this term from this movie in the 30s or 40s or something where this woman would see something happen, and I mean with her eyes, she knew for a fact that this thing happened, and this guy was trying to convince her that no, you're mistaken, that did not happen. So, and that led to her doubting her own memory, and only at the point that somebody else was there and she asked them, are those gaslights flickering? And he said, yes, they are. That was an affirmation that, she was still in touch with reality. So that's what gaslighting is. It's trying to make people doubt their own memory. I would call saying that evolution is not a fact when we can clearly see the evidence in front of us would be some mild form of gaslighting. So something like that. All right, I'm going to guess okay, not so much. I'll come down to a 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely with facts of like evolution, continental drift,
sure,
age of the universe, stuff like that. I mean, they just
it's like baseline stuff.
Yeah. But I've never experienced someone trying to like make me doubt my like something that has happened to me in the past.
Okay. That's fair enough. We'll go with that one. All right, so we got require you. By the way, we have. Oh wow, we're halfway through. Okay, require you to report thoughts, feelings, and activities to superiors. I don't think they're particularly high with this one. I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay, you don't think they're too high with it then?
No. Well, maybe we'll meet in the middle at 2.
Okay.
But you definitely are encouraged to. Obviously talk to the preacher when he does his altar call if you did something you weren't supposed to or whatever.
Sure. And you said altar call. That's kind of like a confession, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically at the end of the service, the preacher's like, if anybody needs to come forward and whatever, all that crap. And then you come forward and you tell the preacher, "Oh my gosh, I did this bad thing."
Right.
He says, "Oh, whatever." He does this whole thing, and
That's the whole guilting you into it. Are there consequences? I mean, if you say I drank alcohol, a whole bunch of it, then there are consequences to that, right?
um, I believe you would definitely be visited by an elder, no
Okay.
doubt.
Okay.
Um, I mean, obviously, if someone saw you out in public buying alcohol, you would definitely get a talking to.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So, do they encourage you to spy and report on others' misconduct? I'm going to say okay, why'd you I said 3, you said 5. Why'd you say 5?
I mean, there was such a culture of gossiping within that church.
Mm,
And just if someone did something, everyone in the church knew it, and they would look at you with this look that was just disgust.
right. It's kind
And
of part of the culture of shaming and stuff.
yes, yes, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses do that too, pretty heavily. It's a really big problem among the congregation. So, yeah, we'll go with that one. Okay. Do they instill black versus white, us versus them, good versus evil thinking? I'm actually going to put this one pretty high. Okay, we agree on that. 13 and 13.
Yep, they are. It is hardline Church of Christ or nothing. Everybody else is just awful.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'm on the same page. Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing. So, do they change your identity, possibly even your name? Now, of course, this seems like it mostly applies to like extreme cults like Jonestown or Heaven's Gate, but I would consider a cult calling you brother or sister so and so as brother Joris as being changing your name, part of your identity, right? So, and I'm pretty sure they do that. So I'm putting them reasonably high. Really, I put 5, you put 1. Why'd you say 1?
It's they do say brother and sister, but um, it's kind of like an offhanded thing. It's not like a
Hard
purposely
line.
doing it. Yeah,
Okay, all right. I'll come down. I'm actually going to come down to a 2.
that's fine.
Okay. All right, we've got use loaded language and cliches to stop complex thought. Now, you actually told me about some loaded language that they use earlier, so I'm
Hmm.
going to put this reasonably high and guess. Okay, so I put 8, you put 13. Why'd you say 13?
They have their own language for everything.
Hmm.
For one, you pastor is a bad word. You don't say pastor. You say preacher. You don't say tithing. You say offering. Cliches. The Bible doesn't contradict itself.
Right. And platitudes
Things
and
like that.
cliches.
Yeah, they try to like boil everything down to this is it, and if you don't get it, then obviously you're just not good enough yet.
Right. That makes sense. That is fair enough. Yeah. Okay, we came to an agreement on that one. So we've got induce hypnotic or trance states to indoctrinate. Now, I would call praying, singing, just all through the service kind of thing, uh, hypnotic or inducing a trance state. Like Pentecostals, a lot of their service is spent singing, or I mean that they are the definition of inducing a trance state. So I'm actually gonna put this one a little bit lower for them. Okay, so I said 5, you said 8. Why'd you say 8?
The only reason I say 8 is because of what they do to their youth. Those the youth conferences they go to are 100% indoctrination camps.
Okay.
Um, I mean, everything is very structured to basically be going really, really fast and to really just get you in this moment of emotion so that you're not thinking critically about anything. You're thinking about how much love for God there is and everybody else around me is doing it.
Right.
And I mean, even in their service, they sit there and they sing their a cappella songs, but their youth conferences are just it's awful.
It's intense, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I would call Mormons' missions really intense in a similar way. I think it's pretty much the same thing, where they're just
Oh, and
trying to pound it into you. They don't give you a second to think for yourself. They're shoving it down your throat, you know.
church
So,
camps as well. The Church of Christ church camps are really not the most fun camp experience you could
yeah,
have.
they have their own church camps and stuff too, don't they?
Yeah, there's one that I went to up in the hills in the state of Ohio,
Mm.
and it was nonstop church all the time. We had several hour church sessions in the evenings every night. We had special services on Wednesdays and Sundays.
See, that's interesting because, as a side note here, Alpha Force Zero, her grandma wanted me to send her to church camp this July, and usually I'm okay with whatever they do with religion with her because it's super moderate. They don't hate anybody for anything. It's just some Methodist church, and it's part of the culture, so she'll get to fit in the future if she ever needs to, right? So, but her mom actually said there is no way I would ever let her go. So, because apparently they're really extreme in a similar way with the church camp and stuff. So,
I believe it. I mean, those camp environments, kids really, I mean, it's no surprise. You being a father, kids don't have the best thought processes, right? Their critical thinking skills aren't formed yet.
Right.
And I feel like church camps are very just predatory in the fact that they just capitalize on that and just jam whatever down their throats.
Yeah.
And there's so many other kids around that you feel pressured to believe it and to be just as expressive and as emotive as you can about it.
Yeah,
and
definitely. Peer pressure used to the church's advantage, right? They're always talking about peer pressure. Don't give in to peer pressure, but here they are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So, do they teach thought-stopping techniques to prevent critical thoughts? Oh, you've already voted. Let's see. I'm gonna say. Okay, so I picked 3, you picked 8. Why'd you pick 8?
Well, for one, reciting Bible verses is a good way.
Sure.
I remember someone telling me once that if you're having a bad thought, to recite a Bible verse to make it go away.
Yeah,
and things like that. And then basically, my points on the church camps as well. The thought-stopping techniques are the songs and all the different cliches and lessons they teach you. You're supposed to remember those.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's actually a really good point. Come to think of it, when I was Jehovah's Witness, they had this. They believe in like magic and demons and things. And does the Church of Christ believe in that stuff too?
It's in the Bible, so it exists.
That's so insane, man. So when I was little, I was convinced that there were like demons all over the place, right? And my mom used to tell me, if I say Jehovah's name, then the demons can't get me. So I walk into a dark room, and when I'm walking to the light switch, I'm just repeating to myself over and over, Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah. That is the kind of level that these cults go to. It's just ridiculous, man.
I got a funny story about that. I remember once someone asking a Church of Christ member if ghosts exist, and through a few Bible verses, he said that ghosts are really demons.
Oh yeah, man.
That they're real.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses say the same thing. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Oh man. I would love to see some evidence of ghosts or demons or magic or any of it. But I mean, there is no evidence for it is what kills me so much. Okay. Do they only allow positive thoughts? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty big on this happy identity. Like, you always have to be happy. If you're not happy, it's because you're not immersing yourself enough in the culture. So, with Church of Christ, I'm going to say, okay, we agree. 3 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, they use the quote, you will know we are Christians by our love and by how happy we are that God's in our life.
Sure.
But I mean, you're definitely allowed to feel sad, but you are really supposed to be happy that you're a Christian, and people will know that you're a Christian by how happy you are, and then they'll ask you, why are you so happy? And you're supposed to say, oh, well, Jesus.
Right, for sure. I think I put a 3 because I feel like they're a little bit more angry than Jehovah's Witnesses are. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, is that a fair point? You think a fair assessment of them?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, let's see. All right, so that one was 3. So do they use excessive meditation, singing, prayer, and chanting to block thoughts? I'm actually gonna give them a pretty high. All right, good. We agree. 8 and 8.
Yeah, and I mean, I would just harken back to the conferences and the
Sure.
camps, and I mean, even just like going to church.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
It's just singing and taking part in all of this garbage that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. So do they reject rational analysis, rational analysis, critical thinking, and doubt? I'm gonna give them a pretty high number. Okay, 8 and 8. We both agree on that one too. Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Using the cliches to just make you not think about
Yeah.
what you're actually hearing.
Loaded language, cliches, and platitudes. Pretty big part of the church, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So do they instill irrational fears of questioning or leaving the group? Now, I'm actually gonna give them. Okay, so I said 8, you said 5. Why'd you say 5?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely tell you if you leave, you won't be happy. People on the outside aren't happy. They might look happy, but they really aren't happy.
See, that's fascinating to me because the Westboro Baptist Church says the same line.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy, man. It's kind of a staple of cult culture, if you will. You can only be happier if you're on the inside of this one, but
Mm-hmm.
okay. So label some emotions as evil, worldly, sinful, or wrong. Okay, you said 13.
Yep. They, I mean, just if sexual thought is very bad, you shouldn't do that.
Sure.
Just anything, like anything that's not directly a part of their agenda,
Is wrong.
you shouldn't think about.
Right. Okay, well, that's a fair vote then. We'll go with that one. I switched mine to 13. Do they teach emotion stopping techniques to prevent anger or homesickness? Now, I applied this to Jehovah's Witnesses where they were where they had to deal with having a disfellowshipped family member. They have to teach their members how to deal with losing this family member, grieving for them as though they're dead. So I'm going to give the Church of Christ. Okay, you said 2, I said 5. Why'd you say 2?
I think it's just your baseline church
Okay.
sort of behavior.
Okay.
I didn't see anything that was too crazy about that.
That's fair enough. I switched mine to a 2. Do they promote feelings of guilt, shame, and unworthiness? Yeah, I'm going to say this one's really high. Yeah, 13 for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, just as a baseline for the Christian religion, you really have to feel like a piece of crap all the time.
Yeah.
Because you know that you're not holy, you're not really worth it. You really aren't worth it. Jesus just happened to feel mercy on your horrible, pitiful form.
On your undeserving soul.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I'm totally with you.
And they definitely take it to
an extreme.
To an extreme.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses were the same way with it. They'd say God's undeserved loving kindness. That's kind of one of their loaded phrases. So, Do they shower you with praise and attention or love bomb you? I'm gonna actually give them a pretty high one for this. Yeah, we both said 13. I thought that's probably the case.
Yeah, after I was baptized, I was hugged by every member of the congregation,
right.
Which was
because they're so happy that you got baptized and got trapped in it like that.
Yeah. And they definitely do that when there's new people. Like
right.
when if you are new, you will have every single elder come up to you, multiple members.
You're just so happy somebody's there to talk to them and learn the good news and all that junk, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's fascinating. Okay. Do they threaten your friends and family? Now, I would actually say, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses are complete pacifists. They do not believe in
Mm-hmm.
violence, but this actually applies to emotional threats too. I would say, like, do they threaten to disfellowship you? Do they threaten to shun you? Do they tell you that you won't get to speak to your family again? That kind of thing. Of course, Church of Christ isn't quite that extreme with shunning, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually going to give him a little bit of a lower number on that. Okay, you said 1, and I said 3. Why'd you say 1? They don't
Yeah,
really do it that much?
I never, I never noticed any physical threats or
Right.
anything like that. It was more being ostracized than
Okay.
like being physically threatened.
Okay. Well, in that case, actually, I'm gonna bump mine up to a 2 because it's a little higher than a baseline with typical churches, but it's not like
Yeah,
super extreme. Silly.
I'll accept that too.
Okay. All right, and we got 2 left. So, do they shun you if you disobey or disbelieve? Now, this one, they don't shun, but I know that they do socially ostracize. So, I'm gonna say 1 because the question does apply. Okay, we agreed. We're both 1.
Yeah,
Good, good.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100% with what you said. You're right on.
Okay. Do they, and this is the last one, do they teach that there's no happiness or peace outside the group? From what you've told me, they're pretty extreme with this one. Okay, we both got 13. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, they very specifically say if you are not part of the church, you are not happy.
That
And
is very, very interesting. So, I'm going to add
and
these.
obviously,
What is it?
you won't be at peace because you're going to hell. So
I know, right? Okay, I'm going to add these numbers up, see if we can get a final value for them real quick. Are you short on time by chance?
no,
Okay, it'll only take me a second to add these up, so.
a
Okay.
second. That's too many.
1 metric second. Okay. Let's see. I think that we agreed on all of these except for 1. I picked a 2, you picked a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember which one that was by chance? Let's see.
Oh,
here.
Don't
No,
remember.
that wasn't the one. All right, well, I'll tell you what. I think I remember which one it was, so I'll just add it to the category and we'll count for it. Okay. So we got okay, so for the behavior category, they got an overall score of 41. For the okay, that one was 46. They're already on the fast track to reach over 200. Okay.
Their power level's over 9,000.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Instill black versus white thinking and reject rational analysis. Okay. So it's 63. Their most extreme category so far was thought control.
I'd believe it.
And then we've got the final category, which is emotion control. And that one was 62. And actually, I'm taking one away from thought control because I think that we voted differently on that. So we got 41, 46, 62, and 62. And that is, it's a total of 211. That's pretty high. Let's see. Okay. Interesting score, 211. I think Westboro Baptist Church got a, like a 275 or something like that. So they were up there in the 200s too. That is pretty extreme. And one of these days I'm going to set up like a scale that will tell us just how extreme something like that is. Although I got to be honest, I think I was going to judge them a little more harshly on some things than you generally. I think that they're a little bit more extreme on the spectrum than than you considered them to be sometimes. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that's our overall score. That's 211. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about it.
Thanks for having me on.